This meeting of the Rolling Meadows City Council is hereby called to order. I usually start by asking everybody to please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. But tonight, before we even do that, I'm going to take a second to say that out in the audience is a particular young man who happens to be a Boy Scout with Troop 10 out of Barrington. And Sam Shire was working on his merit badge that they get for the community, citizenship, that kind of stuff. And so I get this email that says, "Can I come meet with you?" And I sent an email back that said, "Sure." And we set up a time, and he came in and conducted the interview. And he said that he was going to be coming out to tonight's meeting. We sometimes have scouts who are doing the same process and are coming to a meeting for the same reason. But this one I knew about ahead of time. And so I asked Sam if he would mind. It's been a while since we've had a scout lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up. And I'm going to make sure the microphone is on before I hand it to Sam, because that would be bad. And then I'll ask you all to rise and join me and Sam for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
To keep going with unusual things that we do at the beginning of the meeting, at this point I would usually say the clerk will please call the roll. However, our city clerk, deputy city clerk, is absent from this evening's meeting, as is expected to be Alderman Diastis. Therefore, the roll will simply be called from the chair. Therefore, Alderman Cannon.
Here.
Alderman Prana.
Here.
Alderman Majikis.
Here.
Alderman Judd.
Here.
Alderman Banger.
Here.
Alderman Diastis. Alderman Veenbos.
Present.
With 6 present and 1 absent, there is a quorum present this evening. Therefore, members of the audience are reminded that these proceedings are being videotaped for current and future broadcast over the city's cable television channel. The first item on the agenda this evening is a motion to approve 2 sets of minutes. The City Council minutes of July 21st and the Committee of the Whole meeting of July 28th. That's the way it's printed on the agenda, but I believe that's backwards. And so it should be I just read it backwards. Sorry about that. So the Committee of the Whole meeting of July 21st and the Council meeting of July 28th. The Chair would ask for unanimous consent to consider both sets of minutes in one motion. Is there any objection?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Hearing none, it is so ordered that it would be in order for a motion to approve both sets of minutes. Alderman Prana has made the motion and it has been seconded. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to either set of minutes? Then seeing none, the question is, shall both sets of minutes be adopted? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and both sets of minutes are adopted. The next item are the reports for the evening. Under the mayor's report, I want to stop and just again say thank you to Sam for leading that Pledge of Allegiance. He did it just the way we were talking about. I told him that I loudly say the first 3 words and then back my own volume down so that it doesn't sound like anybody's the star of a show. And he followed that right to the T and did a great job. Thank you for coming out and being interested enough in tonight's meeting. Secondly, for once, I'm not really going to step on the toes of other people who attended other events. I'm going to say, yes, the bike ride was great, and yes, National Night Out was great, and I'm going to let other people flesh out the greatness of those 2 events. But I do think it's appropriate, and the staff thought it was appropriate, that specifically from the mayor's chair, some specific donors to the event, everybody who donates to the event is recognized with a letter and more by the police department as a big thank you, since they're the spearheaders of this. But really, some honorable mention goes out when a great friend of Rolling Meadows, like Northrop Grumman here in town, under its general manager, Jeff Palumbo, when they pony up $5,000 for an event like this, that deserves a truly special thank you from the city. When people come out and donate as much food and labor time as Culver's and Grande Jake's and JC Restoration and the Meijer and Costco, and then when people step up to the plate in even more creative ways like Suburban Accents and McDonald's on Algonquin Road, we really think that that requires a little bit of extra recognition, and we thought that doing so from the chair was appropriate. So that's the mayor's report this evening. Are there ward reports? Mrs. Majikis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention something. I had a call from a resident that has had some contractor at her home. I've talked to the city manager and also Chief Scanlon regarding this. The work was very shoddy and everything, and I'm not going to name any names, obviously, but I just want to say that any residents that, when you're having someone do some work at your place, double-check the contractors, maybe get some 2 or 3 referrals or something, because I went over and took pictures and saw this, and it was very dissatisfying what they have done to this woman's home, and she put her faith and her money in them, and they've taken advantage of the situation. So I just want to put that out there, that she had this concern, and she wants to make sure that other residents don't go through what she has had to go through. So it's always best to make sure you check out the people you're hiring. And secondly, I just want to say National Night Out was awesome. It was a good time. Thank
Further
you.
ward reports. Mr. Prana, the second ward.
Well, I will just echo that. Those of the residents that joined us for the bike ride, I think we doubled the number of the folks who were there. I do believe I put a challenge down to the council, Mr. Mayor, and I'm trying, I believe, were you the only person to take that challenge? Mr. Cannon was there, and
Mr. Cannon was there and was helping out. Yes, he was.
Yes, Mr. Cannon made sure everyone got ice cream at the end. But I do believe that you and your wife were the only one to take that challenge, so I'll put it forth next year. National Night Out was awesome. The fun part about National Night Out is running into somebody in a surrounding suburb that talks about their National Night Out, and then I start telling about our National Night Out, and I just love to brag. Can't help it, sorry, but I just love to brag. Thanks to the Park District and the Police Department, the Fire Department, everybody that put it together. It was quite amazing. Now getting back to reality, I do have a few ward reports. We've been working with the Police Department regarding some residents on California Avenue. I guess there's a UPS distribution center that's in Palatine, but causing disruption to the neighbors in that area. I did talk to Fred Rywick Court, and I believe someone has, yes, Mr. Horn's already nodding his head, in regarding to when that's going to be repaired. And then we have another one concerning an ordinance with firearms and ammunition, which the police department and our city attorney is working on. And I also have some other residents that will be coming to visit us concerning Fairfax Street. We're going to be doing Benton, however, I did receive a few calls. They want to see what can be done with Fairfax. So I have been speaking with the appropriate department heads, so I just thought I would let everyone know that we are working on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further ward reports. Mr. Cannon of the first ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. At the last meeting, I made an unfortunate comment directed at our attorney, Mr. McCall, and I just wanted to publicly apologize to him. And it was an unfortunate thing to say, and I'm sorry for it. I just want to make sure I said it in public. I said it in private, but since I said it in public, I thought it was only right for me to say something in public. On a more positive note, I would just say I was really impressed with the bike ride and with National Night Out, and I guess the thing, the take I get away from all of it is that I think people are starting to understand that Rolling Meadows is moving forward. We're starting to do more things as a community. I think that's just really a good thing. The bad part for the police department is I told Commander Gadomski that night, as I said, anything less than the Blue Angels flying over next year, we won't bring it to the next level. He did an awesome job, and all the rest of the guys, it wasn't just him, but he was kind of the leader of it. It was just really a fun night, and I think people who were there had a great time, and I think I was really proud to be part of it.
Those comments are appreciated, sir. Thank you. Further ward reports this evening. Mr. Veenbus of the 7th Ward.
Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to echo again twice or three times the National Night Out. It was incredibly great from the national anthem on to the entire evening. It was fantastic weather too, so we couldn't have had a better location for it. So just hats off to everybody involved. An incredible amount of work too. I realize that too. So that's all I wanted to say.
Further ward reports this evening. that I'm going to cheat a tiny little bit, having heard the comments about the National Night Out and such. It is true that lots of time and energy and work goes into that. And so to the police department and everybody who helps out with that night, I know they're the spearheads, but that they get lots of people to help from all over different parts of the city. We thank them very much. And this group called the Crime Stoppers, of a citizen group that comes out, people who just volunteer their time to help the city out. They're always there at these types of events. Our two particular representatives here on the council are Mr. Cannon of the First Ward and Mr. Prana of the Second Ward. So gentlemen, I hope you'll carry a special thanks back to the Crime Stoppers from all of us. They truly were just outstanding events.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Those are the ward reports for this evening, and there are no signatories on the sign-in sheet for public comment. Therefore, the council can simply proceed with its business, starting with the ordinances that are in for second reading. The first of these ordinances is item A. This ordinance, if adopted, would approve a sign appeal and special use permit for Ben Franklin Bank on Kirchhoff Road to move into the old post office and add a drive-through window to their services. The Plan Commission has considered this request and unanimously recommended its approval. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Mr. Veenbos has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Under discussion, I would just say that the folks from Ben Franklin Bank are out in the audience, as lots of times people are, just in case we have questions. But I know that everybody up here is wishing you really well on this project. We think it's a great use of the old post office. We think that having a drive-through is going to serve you better, too. And so anytime that people can help each other out this way, we think is terrific. Are there further comments on the ordinance this evening? Then seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
Yes.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is hereby declared passed. Second item in for second reading is item B. This ordinance, if adopted, would amend the city code to correct 2 section heading errors in the ordinance that the council passed earlier this year regarding penalties related to the possession of cannabis. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
So move, Mayor.
Mrs. Majikis has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
Yes.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is hereby declared passed. The third item on the agenda this evening is item C. This ordinance, if adopted, would approve an application for a D1 liquor license for the Food Mart and gas station located at 3321 Algonquin Road. Any change in ownership requires this routine request. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance? Mr. Banger has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
No.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Prana?
Yes.
With 5 in favor and 1 opposed, this ordinance is hereby declared passed. Item D, this ordinance, if adopted, would declare numerous items of city equipment to be surplus property, including 8 vehicles. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Mr. Cannon of the Vehicle Replacement Committee has made the motion, and Mr. Prana also has seconded. Therefore, is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Cannon?
Mr. Mayor, I was reading this afternoon again, and I had a thought. On the first item on there, on the Darley fire engine,
Certainly.
I'm wondering if I should offer an amendment there to give our city manager some leeway on pricing. If you remember the last time we disposed of a fire engine, it sat in our garage for about 2 years, if I remember.
I do
correctly.
recall. It was quite a while.
And I guess that ended up costing us a lot of money per month just to have it certified and go through all the testing with our pumps and all that. I'm wondering if I could offer an amendment to let Mr. Crumstock have some authority on pricing there as opposed to a minimum bid thing. Is that legal at this point to do that?
Well, I'm sure there are ways that it could be phrased. Off the top of my head, if we struck the number 40,000 and inserted the phrase manager's discretion, would that be acceptable legal-wise, Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Parliamentary-wise, I see nothing wrong with that. Therefore, Mr. Cannon, if you'd like, you would be allowed to offer such an amendment.
I would like to do that. And I guess, again, I would like the reason I'm doing it is the last time, we sat there and we had an unusually high price on it. It sat in our our facility for months and months and months, and then it got to be years, and then we ended up getting, I believe, $24,000 for it when we ended up selling it. I think originally we had it in the market for like $75,000. So I mean, it is what the market will bear, and there's a lot of fire engines on the market right now. So I guess I would like to dispose of it as quickly as possible is my theory behind it.
Then is there a second to the amendment? Mr. Banger has seconded, therefore debate opens on the amendment. That would traditionally start with the author having an opening comments, but I believe, Mr. Cannon, that's probably satisfactory, yes?
I said too much already.
Well, just a little early, that's all. Is there any discussion on the amendment only? Then seeing no discussion on the amendment only, the question is, shall the ordinance be amended to strike the number $40,000 from the first line in the chart and insert the phrase manager's discretion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the ordinance is amended. Is there further discussion on the ordinance? Seeing no further discussion, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Mr. Judd?
Yes.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is hereby declared passed. The final item in for second reading this evening is item E. This ordinance, if adopted, would eliminate the position of part-time electrical inspector and reclassify the part-time clerical position in the Community Development Department as a full-time position. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Mr. Prana has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon? Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
No.
With 5 in favor and 1 opposed, this ordinance is hereby declared passed. That concludes all of the items that are in for second reading this evening, and rather unusually, there are no items at all in for first reading. I guess that'll make the next meeting a little shorter, too. So that lets the council proceed directly to the warrant, the document that releases all of the funds for the obligations of the city that were incurred from July 22nd through August 8th. The amount for approval is nearly $1.75 million, a little over half of which is related to the payroll. Is there a motion to approve the warrant as prepared by the Finance Department? Mr. Banger has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the warrant be approved? Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
Yes.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, the warrant is approved. That brings the council, in just a second, to the resolution portion of tonight's agenda. It contains simply 2 items that are on a minor consent resolution. Therefore, if either item is removed, there will be no consent agenda for resolutions. Mr. Judd?
Gee.
Then therefore, there is not a consent agenda, and we will proceed to each resolution individually. Item G, this resolution, if adopted, would approve an intergovernmental agreement for the City of Rolling Meadows to keep participating in the Northwest Suburban Housing Collaborative. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Mayor.
Mrs. Majikis has made the motion, and Mr. Prana has seconded. Mr. Judd, you asked that this be pulled. You're entitled to first comment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been opposed to this from day one. I think we're utilizing valuable staff time that's not necessarily needed to be utilized. I'm not a fan of the vast bulk of what they're doing. In fact, I happen to know that the handyman services, it's difficult to, it's not necessarily as efficient as it should be and or could be. But that being said, I've been opposed to this, and I don't think that we should be spending any more staff time doing it. So that's about it. Thanks.
The chair would say that I certainly recognize that there have been some gentlemen who've been opposed to this from its creation, and I certainly do not begrudge that opinion. I just point out that I have also not changed my opinion in support of the collaborative. I think we get a good little bang for almost no buck. At a recent meeting of all 5 of the towns that are in the collaborative, the mayors and/or managers, and sometimes both, of all 5 communities were present, and the support from all the communities was very vocal, and I hope we'll continue our participation. Further discussion of the resolution? Then seeing none, the question is, shall the resolution be adopted? Mr. Cannon?
No.
Mr. Prana?
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis?
Yes.
Mr. Judd?
No.
Mr. Banger?
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos?
Yes.
With 4 in favor and 2 opposed, this resolution is adopted. The final item under council business this evening is item H. This resolution, if adopted, would award a contract for sanitary sewer and storm sewer manhole lining and rehabilitation. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? Mr. Veenbos has made the motion, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the resolution be adopted? Mr. Prana.
Yes.
Mrs. Majikis.
Yes.
Mr. Judd.
Yes.
Mr. Banjer.
Yes.
Mr. Veenbos.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, this resolution is adopted. Excuse me. Under other business and reports, I have no appointments nor proclamations, and if the deputy city clerk is absent, I see no way in which she can make a report. Therefore, we go to community items of interest, starting with Mr. Crumpstock.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Obviously, we have 6 items that are in the packet, but I do want to add something else to the packet. And obviously, the first one deals with, if you missed the July 25th Farmers and Food Market, our next one is Saturday, August 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the City Hall parking lot. We do have only 2 left here for 2015, and it is the August 22nd and the September 26th. Thank you for everybody who attended the community bike ride. I hope that you liked the different route that we had this time, and we have a new route for next year, too. And again, thank you to everybody who attended National Night Out on Tuesday, August 4th. A special thank you actually goes out to Commander Tom Kondomsky and obviously some other individuals who really spent a lot of time on it. And then I also want to thank everybody who attended last Friday's 8th annual duck race, and that was at the Nelson Sports Complex. And then, obviously, we haven't said this for a little bit, but if you have a crime tip or information that may help the Rolling Meadows Police, please contact the Crime Stopper number that we have as 1-847-590-7867. That's 1-847-590-STOP. And then, obviously, the last one that's on the printed list before I add one more is obviously the cruise nights that are back on Friday nights. They go until September 4th. And again, that is at 2401 Kirchhoff Road, thanks to Meadows Christian Fellowship. The 2 items that I do want to add that are not in the actual packet, one is just a reminder, school does start for District 15 on Monday, the 24th. And
Slackers.
and the 25th. So please be aware the kids will be back to school by the time that we're actually having our next meeting. And again, when you do see the arm out on the stop sign on the bus, you do need to stop. The second one is obviously something that's just happening right now, and there is a immediate press release that came out from IDOT and some other items, but the big beam will be placed onto the I-90 bridge that affects us on Gulf Road. And just from operations from Friday 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on Saturday, Saturday 11 p.m. to Sunday 6 a.m., and then Sunday 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., Gulf Road is really going to be closed by that bridge because they really need to spend that time on the weekend to do that. And obviously in the press release, they talk about Rolling Meadows, but they also talk about Arlington Heights and Elk Grove Village coming next weekend. But each one of these, just be aware, and when we do mean that Gulf Road will be closed to get the I-beams into the bridge, we do mean that there is no access between that item. So again, those are the 2 items that I do add for those items.
I guess I would say it's probably bad form to make an inside joke when not everybody gets it, but when Mr. Crumpstock made reference to school opening in a couple of weeks, I was jokingly saying slackers because the school where I work started today. And so when kids come in on August 11th, the earliest start we've ever had, that was the point of the joke. Any questions at all on the community items of interest? Then under purchase order disclosures over $2,500, there's only 2. Mrs. Gallagher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing further to note on those 2.
Then we can stay there for the capital plan distribution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Within the City Council packet, we have released the FY 2016 to 2020 5-year capital plan and financial forecast. Within that, I just wanted to first recognize the third year of the Ad hoc Capital Improvements Committee, and a special thank you to Alderman John Diastis, Alderman Tim Beamas, our public members Bob Loesch and Steve Hollish for all their work and effort, and also our Public Works Director, Fred Vogt. We wanted just to let you know that it is out there in the packet and on the city's website, and at the August 18th Committee of the Whole meeting, we will provide a presentation, and then discussion will follow as well. And then at the, in the August 25th City Council packet, we will also have the 2016 proposed budget several weeks in advance of the first budget meeting in September. So right now, it's just a matter of having released at this point in time.
Then for anybody who talks to Alderman Banjer on a regular basis, he loves to mention how many pages he had to read for the week. Do not listen if he tells you he had to read 484 pages this week, because he's got a whole nother week before he has to read 170 of those pages.
And they're mostly pictures.
They're mostly pictures, which helps us all, I think.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Judge.
Just got a question. Hopefully
Certainly,
you
that's
can
what this
help
is for.
Clarify for me. So this is the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years. So in a perfect world, we would do all of these if the funding was there. Is that kind of the synopsis behind it?
Yes, I suppose, yes. In a perfect world, if we can afford everything, we would try to do what's here in the plan. Yes, sir.
I mean, I guess, and now wouldn't be the time, but next week, I guess, would be the time. But the question I have is, would it be appropriate to, if there's something that's not going to be supported, to remove it from the capital plan, just so that we know, there's no support for it at this point in time or whatever, so that we get kind of a clear picture as to how much money we truly need, in the sense that one of the items on there is changing Barker to match up with Newport, for example. And I get the reasoning behind it, but with all the talk we have about the roads, and we don't have the funding for the roads to begin with, would there be support on the council to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this even though we can't do Kirchhoff Road? So it would just seem to be a little bit clearer picture of a capital improvement project plan if we knew that, okay, these 5 things really wouldn't go, let's pull them out. So instead of needing 50 million, we really only need 45 or something along that line, so that we kind of get a little clearer picture to things that are being supported and not. I mean, Meacham Road at this point in time, died with the council we have. Granted, it might change in 2 to 4 years or whatever, but it's in here, again, and I get it because it says, I think it's 2020, but would that be the time to kind of say, should we remove some of these things to get a clearer picture as to what we really truly need versus, I don't want to say pie in the sky wishes that, if everything was perfect, we would do. So we kind of get a clearer picture. Would that be the appropriate time next week to do stuff like that, or no?
I understand exactly where you're coming from, and since the idea is clarification, I'm sorry that the answer I have to give you is, it's kind of a bit of a muddle with exactly how the capital improvements plan is going about. It's akin in a state legislature or the United States Congress to the council accepting a report. This has basically been put forth by the staff with the help of the Capital Improvements Committee. So it's not really necessarily something that we would amend. When reports come, legislatures can accept them or reject them, and they're very rarely rejected unless people say there are factual inaccuracies and so forth and so on. It's sort of kind of somebody else's work, and so it's not something that we necessarily amend, but you are exactly right. Any of those kinds of things would be greatly appreciated if somebody would signal intent like we talk about all the time. And so I would suggest that maybe for the first bit, under matters not on the agenda at any of the upcoming meetings, it wouldn't have to be the next one or the one after or the one after. There's a point during the budget process where the actual approval acceptance happens. When's that? Can you help me?
Actually, part of the process is an outlayer, but that gives us information how that the one that you're asking about, it's not for the 2016 budget. So it does give us information as we present. So again, when you see this proposal,
Mr.
the
Crumpstock,
budget-
I need an answer to the question that I asked.
the budget itself, when you start talking about that at the September cow, that would have any of those items that are in there.
For just 2016.
Only 2016. So when you're asking about 2018, the outlayer, that's just in the program, but that would be feedback for us when we do the next presentation in next year.
So then, I guess I'll take that information and say, you are free at any time, under matters not on the agenda, to say, I noted these things in the report that was submitted, and the 2016 portion, the committee of the whole meeting would be the appropriate time to take anything there, and everything else is just taken under advisement. So by reading it into the council minutes, next year, when they do the 2017 to 2021 capital improvements plan, they will have the objections that were noted and then decide whether or not to make a change in that capital improvements report, and that's how things going forward would go. So you see what I mean? There's not really a clear answer here because this is not really a council document per se. Does that answer the question you were asking?
A little bit. I'm just trying to, if my thinking is if there's 4 votes that say I wouldn't support that, it would make sense to kind of remove it so you get a clear picture now. So I'm just trying to figure out how we kind of get to there. Again, not like you say, not necessarily yes or no, I mean, because things change as time goes on, but I'm just thinking as a general guideline for them versus every year waiting, to find out, because then we get a little bit clearer picture. So.
Certainly. And so, for example, for the 2016 items, we'll do the show of hands at the Committee of the Whole in September, just like normal procedure. If you do have things that are in later years, we can do that same informal process under matters not on the agenda, because it's not actually a motion, it's not actually a formal action by the council. It's just sort of advice to the Capital Improvements Committee, hey, you had 4 hands that said, I'm not going to support this. And so in their next draft that they run next year, they take that under advisement and they know if people voted against that and it's still here, you got some splaining to do, and they could still do that. But since it's their work, it's not a clean procedure. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And we can talk in between the meetings as well. Further discussion of the capital plan. All right, then seeing none, the second quarter financials, Ms. Gallagher again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the council packet, in front of you are the second quarter financials, and this is results of operations through June 30th, 2015. This is a budget comparison report, and we do report this on a cash basis or a modified accrual basis. Couple of noteworthy items, getting back to sort of the calendar, we will have the budget planning calendar in the weekly notes this week, and then also in the next council packet, just so you are aware of all the dates that are coming up for the budget process. As I mentioned before, we will release the 2016 proposed budget in the August 25th council packet, and that is in advance of the first budget discussion to take place in September Committee of the Whole meeting. And as a reminder, feel free to contact the city manager for budget one-on-one meetings as early as August 26th or 25th. So with the first quarter or the second quarter financials, we wanted to review a couple things. So this would be the general fund, the largest operating fund of the city. We have an all funds income statement and then revenue charts as well. The cash and investments report is included as well. Turning to the actual income statement for the general fund, all in through June 30th, 2015, the city received $15.6 million, about 55% of the revenues year to date, or 5% better than budget. A couple noteworthy items on this general fund income statement is that, particularly for our larger revenues, such as municipal sales tax, home rule sales tax, are coming in about 2% better than budget. Electric utility tax is coming in about 1% better. Local use tax is coming in about 10% better, some of our larger revenues. Income tax is coming in about 2% better. Dropping down to red light enforcement fines are coming in at budget, actually, year to date for June 30th. Some of our one-time revenues, as we've mentioned in the past, building permits, real estate transfers, those are coming in better than budget as well. Turning to the expenditure side, all in through June 30th, 2015, expenditures came in year-to-date 13.1 million, about 5% trending under budget, primarily due with some of retirements that when we crafted the budget, we didn't know they were going to retire, and they did. So there's some savings in those line items. As we fill those positions, there are savings in different departments. We do monitor the property taxes coming in, and we note that on the cash or the income statement on the side bar. So that is the general fund year-to-date. Turning to the all funds income statement, all the funds at a glance, I'm just going to highlight a couple of notes here. We do always footnote on the financials, but being that we're about in the middle of summer, we're completing our capital items, and so those flow through to the end of the year. So that's why you'll see some of the trend a little bit lower on the expenditure side for the capital items in the other funds. And then turning to the cash and investment summary statement through June 30th, just so you know, all cash in, $19.9 million all through June 30th for the all city funds. As we do for all of our cash and investments and our financial reports, we do include our year-over-year charts that show the major revenue funds, and that's in the back of the packet. What I would just highlight real quickly is the fact that we are seeing at least year-over-year consistent over the last couple of years for our major revenues for the general fund. And with that, that's the second quarter. Happy to take any questions.
And seeing none, the final item under staff reports is the presentation of the Committee of the Whole meeting agenda for next week. Mr. Krumstock?
Thank you very much. Actually, there's going to be one deletion and there will be one addition to this already.
I can handle the addition, I believe.
The first item is an ADA transition plan, and then Mike Mallon will be here. The Server Sand project is actually going to be moved to September, so that one will be removed from the final one. The capital plan will be discussed. Obviously, what we just talked about, the vehicle replacement for 2016 will be discussed. Road fund will be discussed. We will be adding, right after potentially the road fund, a general fund distribution discussion, but it has a better name. So that would be added. And then the EAC and then entry markers discussion will be had. So at this point in time, we do have 8. We've done some shuffling to try to expedite certain parts of the meeting, but again, the sand will be moved to September, and we are adding 1 into that list, but it will still be 8 at this point in time.
And the question that I have for the council is that it wasn't that long ago that we published in a packet, so that we didn't have to do a committee of the whole discussion, an idea that I put forth about using half of a surplus when we're over our target for having reserves and so forth and so on. And in that letter, I said, I am not asking at this particular time for a policy that would do that. I'm just saying, let's try this idea for a year and see how it goes. Members of the council have reacted very favorably to that. But literally yesterday, otherwise it would be in the packet, as we were discussing the budget with myself and Ms. Gallagher and Mr. Krumstock, if we want to be able to do anything a little bit more forward-looking in the 2016 budget, their advice from people like the auditors is that it actually is smart to put a policy in place now, if that's something that we're interested in. So the permission that I'm asking of the council is not who's really in favor of the idea. That's what a committee of the whole discussion would be for. But I would like permission of the council to add that item to the committee of the whole agenda for next week, because Mr. Krumstock and Ms. Gallagher mentioned it probably should be put in place as the budget discussions go on. The policy would not include where funds go necessarily, just the general idea of using surplus funds. So is there any objection at all to adding that item to the committee of the whole next week? Then seeing none, I thank you for being gracious enough to allow me that, and it is so ordered that that can be added to the committee of the whole agenda. Mr. Krumstock, anything else there?
Not tonight.
All right, then are there matters not on the agenda this evening? Okay, then if there aren't any matters not on the agenda, I feel obligated to point out that Mr. Rob Horn, who's the new Assistant Public Works Director, has been in Fred Voigt's chair this evening, and there has not been a single opportunity to haze him or put him on the spot or any questions or anything else like that. So I guess I would say, Mr. Horn, may I ask, sir, I'd like to know how many linear feet of sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water mains are in the entire city, and I would like the answer converted into Egyptian cubits. Could you tell me the answer, please?
I'd be happy to get that for you at the committee of the whole meeting.
Let the record reflect that he did not have an answer to that question and has to go back. Would anybody else care to ask Mr. Horn any questions before we adjourn this evening? Well, then, on a far more serious note, Mr. Horn, we certainly don't wish Mr. Vogt any ill will in absent meetings and anything like that, but anytime he is absent, we welcome you to the city since we haven't had a chance to officially do so yet. You are welcome in his chair to sub for him anytime he's out, and we'll be happy to see you anytime you show up.
Thank you.
Then, since there's nothing else on the agenda, it would be in order to have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Veenbos beat Mr. Banger to the motion by approximately half a second, but I believe Mr. Banger will second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
The chair is in doubt. I think we might need a roll call. No, we're adjourned.